Hello and welcome back to Explaining Acro. I'm Ben and today we're joined by Justin from Firestorm Freerunning and we're going to be talking about spotting.
Catching people, not letting them die. Important stuff. Oh, we synced it up. Let's go.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us for spotting today. So we're going to talk about what is spotting. Spotting is basically what you're trying to do. It's where you are saying, I am going to keep this person safe during this skill no matter what happens. You're not saying, I'm going to help them finish this skill. You're not going to say, I'm going to make sure they land perfectly on their feet. Your goal and your job is to protect this person and keep them as injury-free as possible should the worst happen during some sort of acrobatic skill. The main thing we're trying to do is protect the head, the neck, and the spine, followed by the rest of the body, but those are our really important ones, and those are the things we're going to be really focusing on. Now, there's three different types of people involved in spotting. There's the flyer. That's the person, usually a lady or a smaller stature person who's up in the air, being held up. You've got your base, which is the person that is holding the flyer up. Sometimes there's more than one base. And then you've got your spotter. And your spotter is the person who makes the promise, I will keep you safe at the risk to myself. So those are the three people involved, and that's kind of what we're going to be going over today of what the expectation should be from each of these people to keep your flyer as safe as possible so you can be doing acro and all kinds of fun acrobatics for as long as possible, as safe as possible.
All right, so when we're gonna be engaging in spotting, we're gonna do any kind of acrobatics, everybody needs to have a good idea and understanding of what their job duties are, and you have to have trust among yourselves. So it's really important, especially for flyers, and I mean this right here, flyers. If you do not know a person who is volunteering to spot you, or gonna be trying a new skill, it is absolutely imperative that you feel comfortable enough to say no. A lot of times I have seen a lot of ladies that because somebody's like, oh, don't worry, I'm big, I'm strong, I've got you, don't worry about this, and they don't know that spotter, and I have watched these people get dropped because spotting is a skill, and you want a highly skilled spotter to be the person that is spotting you. So it's really important that you have this trust with the person. Your body, your health is much, much more important than somebody else's feelings. So even if it's a little awkward, even if it may hurt their feelings, say no to people that you do not yet know. Now there are two good ways to find out that I have found, two good ways that you can kind of test out a new spotter. Number one, if somebody volunteers to spot you, get an endorsement from another flyer or another spotter that you trust and that you know is high level and you know knows what they're doing, and get an endorsement for that person. If nobody comes up and goes, oh yeah, I know that person, they're great, you're gonna be safe, don't worry about it, they got you, then the next thing you can do to slowly ease this person into spotting you is bring over a spotter you already do trust. Somebody that has caught you before, somebody that you know knows all the basic components of spotting and will keep you safe. Because then you can have the person you trust right there, and then with that person, you'll now have your other new person, and those two can work together and you can kind of see how that new person does and get feedback from the good person you trust on that new person as they spot with them. But what we don't want to do is just let anybody spot us, because that's where brankles come from. Broken ankles. Brankles. So you've decided to engage in some acrobatics. Well, what we need to do here is we need to go over the promise from the spotter to the flyer and the flyer to the spotter. So as a spotter, what you are promising your flyer is, I will catch you. I will injure myself and have injury occur to me from saving you before I allow injury to occur to you. That doesn't mean that, a flyer will never get injured, but it means that you're willing to sacrifice your body, you're willing to step in the way, possibly take an elbow to the face, whatever is necessary to make sure that that person that is falling from high up is caught and is kept safe. Now, along with that, there's a couple important things to keep in mind. Number one, if you are the spotter, during that time from when the skill leaves the ground until the flyer is back on the ground, you only have eyes for the flyer. That is the only person that exists in your universe. You are just beelined straight at that person. I don't care if you're down at the beach, right? You're down in Santa Monica, you're on the green, you're having a great time. Some super hottie in a thong walks by. Your eyes don't wander. You are stuck right there on that flyer. The other really important thing as a spotter, if somebody asks you to spot them, you need to be open and honest with that person. And what I mean by that is sometimes at Acro festivals, people are taking a puff of marijuana, right? No issue with that, right? Maybe somebody's having a drink, maybe somebody's injured, maybe they're sleep deprived. Let your flyer know, because those things can affect whether or not they want to trust you with spotting them. All right, always be honest and upfront about that stuff, and then that way everyone's on the same page. Now from the other side, the flyer has a promise as well. Theirs is a bit more simple, although psychologically a bit more difficult. When they fall, they need to do two things. The first one is control your fear, right? Our body has natural reactions. We've probably all done this before, where we start to fall and we start flapping our arms like magically we have wings and they're gonna save us. It's just not gonna happen. So you have to have that psychological control over your body, that as soon as the surprise or falling happens, it is the flyer's responsibility to pull themselves into a tight-bodied, controlled position and control that fear so they don't have arms or legs or anything swinging wildly as they fall. We are gonna go over some drills later, and we are gonna go over the proper body position for a flyer to fall in, depending on what the skill is. But by and large, we're gonna be pulling in tight and controlling that urge to sprawl out, because all you're gonna do is swing an arm, hit your spotter in the face, and then they're not gonna spot you very well. And that's not what we wanna have happen. All right, let's go over body positioning for the spotter. Now, when we're doing this, you might see some very advanced people that look really relaxed and they're standing there kind of like this as they watch the flyer. Those are really advanced people, quick reflexes, they know what they're doing. For everybody else, when you're first starting out, and honestly, even as an advanced flyer, this is what I recommend for people. What you're gonna wanna do is feet roughly shoulder width apart with slightly bent knees right here. All right, we're gonna be lightly engaging our core. You're not squeezing as hard as you can, but if you have a loosey-goosey stomach and you catch a 110-pound girl, you're going down. So lightly engaged abs. For our arms, we want 90-degree bent arms, hands up above the height of our shoulders. I don't need you extended, although some people do like to spot like that, but we want those arms slightly bent, and we want our shoulders protracted and engaged, right? A loose extended shoulder, no strength there. Shoulder pulled back, so you're engaging your lats, your chest, your upper body, your neck, all of these things. Now you're engaging a lot more muscle groups to be able to catch people with. So we're gonna be here with our hands slightly above our shoulders and bent somewhere close to a 90 or a little wider than that. No straight arms though. Straight arms are the devil. Don't ever do them. All right. From there, the next thing is your head positioning. And really with my head positioning, I'm talking about my eyes. Where are my eyes looking? What am I looking for in order to know when something's gonna go wrong, right? You can be great reflexes and stuff, but if it takes you 2 or 3 seconds to realize that a trick is going down, you may not be able to cover the distance between you and the people you're spotting to be able to catch them in time. So what we're looking for with our eyes, so we're looking for 2 separate things that'll tell us about our balance. The first thing we're looking for is the connection point between the base and the flyer. So we'll do a simple one right here. It's like we're in hand to hand, right? I've got a girl doing a handstand on top of my hands. Our connection point is where our hands are. All right, so we're looking at the connection point, and then we're looking at the center of body mass of the flyer. If those are stacked over the top of each other, if here's our hand connecting to our other hand, and here's the center of our body mass, and they are directly over the top of each other, right, then they are balanced. If I start to see the hands go off to the side like this, I know that person's coming down. There's no connection there. Even if the hands stay right where they are and the girl starts to tip over, I can see that her upper body has moved away from here. She's gonna be falling. So what we're looking for is we're keeping our eyes right on that connection point and that center mass. So as soon as we see it start to tip, we can immediately step in and get ourselves ready to catch that person. With this, there's a few other things you want to keep in mind. One is your positioning, if you're outside especially, your positioning in relation to the sun. You'd be shocked how many times I have seen people come up to spot, the sun is up over there, and they are right here, and they can barely see the person because they're kind of blinking like this, right? Always make sure if you're outside, the sun is to your back. That way you have nothing obstructing your view. In addition to that, The other thing you want to do is you got to know what skill they're working on, right? Ask the person beforehand. Don't just be like, hey, can you spot something? Sure. What are you doing? And then if it's a skill where they go, oh, this is the skill we're doing, and I have a tendency to fall towards my back. Cool. You want that information beforehand because that will determine where you position yourself. You want to be in the position of what is the most dangerous direction for them to fall, or what is the area they usually fall to the most, so that you can be there and be prepared for it. What you don't want to do is be standing in front of somebody when they generally fall backwards. You can't run through them, you can't run through the base to get to the flyer, so you need to position yourself in such a way that you are ready to catch them. All right, now that we've learned our spotter's body position for when you're getting ready, we need to be able to move with it, all right? You have no idea when something goes wrong, which direction that flyer is gonna fall, which means we only have a small amount of time to react to their center of balance falling off, notice they're falling, and close the distance and the gap between where we are and where we need to be in order to catch them. So we already went over the body position. Now we're gonna show you how to move. If I'm here and I'm watching a person and I see them start to fall, I either have to move side to side or forward backwards or some sort of diagonal. We use shuffle steps for that. You may have seen these before. It's a lot like the football drill. Over to the sides. Same thing front to back. Keeping your eye on the flyer the entire time. Now, why do we do shuffle steps? The reason we do shuffle steps is one, it allows us to stay in that crouched position so we have an engaged core and we actually have our legs ready to absorb as we catch people. If you're standing up straight like this, it takes a lot longer to get yourself started to move, and you only have about half a second to maybe a second to catch that flyer. So you need to get yourself in that bent, ready to push off and close the gap positioning. All right? The other big important thing is to keep in mind where is the most likely place that they're gonna fall, and position yourself 1, maximum 2 steps away. The distance I am from the camera is about 7 feet. I would never spot someone from this far away because there's very little chance, unless they fall straight towards me, I'm gonna be able to close that distance and that gap. So wherever your flyer is and your base is, you wanna be roughly 1 arm's length away from them. Now let's go over the flyer's body position. Flyers are gonna be in lots of different body positions depending on what skill they're doing, but once the worst happens and they start to fall and they have to be caught, it's very important for a flyer to tighten up and pull all their limbs in. The tighter and more solid you are together, the easier it is for someone to catch you. Have you ever gone over to a friend, right, and you wrap your arms around them and you pick them up, right? As long as they're tight, you can pick them up. What happens when they go loose and just melt? It suddenly feels like they just weighed 50 pounds more, and now you've got weight going in this direction and this direction. It's not centered, it's not tight, it's not controlled. So we wanna make sure that you make yourself the easiest possible version to catch, which is the tight version. So you've got 2 options with your arms. One is either pulling your arms in. I like to place the hands on top of the thighs or right here by the sides and squeezing in. The other one is arms across the chest like this. What is absolutely imperative is you don't want to leave your arms extended up like this. There are a few small instances where this would be okay, but if your arms are here and you fall towards your back and somebody catches you under your back, your arms are gonna rip over like this and you're gonna hurt your shoulders really bad. So we wanna pull those arms in. The other big reason is if you're falling and you're swinging an arm, not only is that gonna hurt your shoulder and your arm, you're probably gonna elbow somebody in the face. Now, that can be really funny to watch happen to somebody else, but it's really not fun when it happens to you. We don't wanna see that happen. So when we fall, we're gonna engage our core, squeeze the legs together and squeeze the arms down to our sides or across our chest. The other thing that I generally recommend for flyers, and everyone's a little different, this is actually a tramp wall technique, right? If you ever watch tramp wall people, they fall from really high up and they hit the trampoline on their back in what's called a cockroach position or a backdrop, right? There's a lot on their neck to keep their head from going like this. If you're getting caught as a flyer, this is a big heavy weight and we don't want it going back and hurting your neck. So one of the easiest things to do is as you squeeze in, shoulder shrug up and bring your shoulders into your neck. I know I look really funny right now and I look kind of ridiculous, but now my everything around my neck and my head is one solid unit. I've got my shoulders, I've got my upper chest, I've got my upper back and my traps, my lats, all these things are pulling in and supporting my neck, which is gonna keep me from getting a whiplash. So as you fall, one more, squeeze in, tighten up, squeeze the shoulders up, and when we fall, you might be falling feet first towards the ground. If you start to pitch over, that's when we're gonna go into a cradle position, which we'll go over a little later. As long as you're tight, it's really easy for us to catch you. As soon as you're loose, really dangerous for everyone involved. All right, now that we've talked about our flyer's body position, we're gonna actually put it into some practice by playing a little game called Catch the Statue. I've got two nice flyers, one nice flyer with me, and that's Lisa over here. Yeah, it's gonna be her first time trying this drill, so you get to see what it'll be like in real life. And this person is my wife, Angel. You know, we're not gonna worry about her. All right, so Lisa, I'm gonna have you stand right here in the center. What Lisa's gonna do is she's gonna assume that body position we talked about. So arms across her chest, squeezing your abs nice and tight, squeezing your legs together. And the three of us are gonna spread out right about here. We're gonna start really close with our hands up, kind of in our ready position as a spotter. And all that's gonna happen is I want you to leave your feet locked in the ground where they are. And like a statue, you will just tip over. You're not gonna arch or bend or anything. You're gonna commit fully to, if we don't catch you, you flat into the ground. And I want you to start just by falling towards me. So I'm gonna come in here, absorb, and redirect to somebody else. And we're practicing our catching. And then one of the things we can do is as we get a little more advanced, we can move a little further back. So that way it's actually forcing her to really commit to being in that position. All right, really good. Thank you so much. All right, and so that's how that game works. Do you feel how yeah, it's kind of fun, but it's a little nerve-wracking, right? Now that's gonna be even more nerve-wracking when you fall from really high up. You're gonna wanna sprawl and flail. That's how you get injured as a flyer. That's how the spotter gets injured trying to spot. So we're gonna train this body position until it's second nature. So when you fall, you immediately pull in, squeeze tight, and make it easy for your flyer, or for your base or spotter to catch you. All right, now that we've talked about our body position, let's talk about how to actually catch a person. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but the most common one is just a friendly hug. Yay! All right, so what I mean by this is as the person is falling, we're gonna close the distance between us and them. We've got our arms up. We're gonna wrap our arms around the center mass of their body. And I'm trying to grab the center mass of her body because if I grab her like this and I hug her, she's nice and tight, this is easy, I can catch her. If she goes loose, she starts wiggling all over the place. This is much harder for me to catch her and be able to do anything with. The other reason we go for right here around center mass, which is like bottom chest to top of hips, is if I control your center mass, I control your entire body. Try to fall away from me. Yeah, where do you think you're going? You ain't going nowhere, nah. But if I only control something like a limb and I grab her by the arm and she falls, it's only because she's tightening her core that she's not just dropping to the floor. The same is true as if somebody is falling, you want to get them around the waist. Don't try to grab them around the thighs. If I try to grab her like this while she's falling, whoop, she flips right over. And now things don't smell very good, but that's her own fault. So we're going right around the center of body mass. So a good way to do this is just practice with your flyer coming over and going, hey, let me get in here. Now, see her arms? Arms are either here or here when you're falling, so it's totally up to you wherever you want to put them. And you're just practicing grabbing around, picking up, and setting them down. It seems really dumb, but it's getting used to the close the distance, grab the person, pull them into your chest. Think about when you pick up a heavy weight. If I hold it close to my chest, it weighs a lot less. As I extend that weight out, totally looks like I'm flipping off the camera. As I extend that weight out, it feels heavier and heavier because it's a longer distance from my body. The same is true for her. She's tiny. What do you weigh, like 85, 90 pounds maybe?
About 100.
About 100? Okay.
Got these.
Sorry.
Got these guys.
Yeah, you got them legs.
Got the media legs.
All right. But if I try to catch her with straight arms out here, I can't catch 100 pounds. I'm a 200-pound guy. I'm fairly strong. I cannot catch a falling 100 pounds with my arms extended, right? But if my arms were here, I could catch that. So as she falls, I'm wrapping around and pulling her in. What we also want to be careful of is this perpendicular body position right here. If she starts to fall, yes, I can wrap around like this, but you'll notice I can't really grip super well. And also if I grab here and I don't get my hands around and she starts to fall away, she's gonna slip right out. And then I'm grabbing by the arm, we're yanking her elbow, her shoulder, her wrist. So we want to get in there either chest to chest, or if I can turn you around, if they're falling backwards, right here, chest to back, just catching the person using your leg muscles to absorb, and setting them down. And that is the main way we're going to be catching people. There's also a position called cradle and a few other ones, but this is how 90% of your falls are going to happen. You intercept the person, you grab them, you pull them in, you give them a hug. If they come in and you land at a bad angle with your body, or there's just too much tilting, then if you don't mind, we'll do this real quick. She fell, she hits me, whoop. We're sitting and rolling down on the ground together. The easiest way to do that is as you pull the person in, you're gonna squat your legs, set your butt on the ground, and roll yourself out, just like a basic break fall. Except now, you have a friend to do it with. Yay. Now that we've gone over how to hug or catch your flyer, it's time to actually start practicing some drills. So we're gonna bring your flyer up a little bit off the ground, and she is gonna pretend that she's playing the same game we did before, where you are a statue and you fall, and my goal is to catch her. I'm not pushing her back like I was before. Now I'm actually practicing that hug technique and pulling her into my body and setting her down. It's important when you start this one that you talk to your flyer and make sure that you are both on the same page. Hey, we're gonna have you fall this direction. Don't fall that way, because I am not prepared for that. Sound good? All right. I'm gonna get in my ready position. Remember, arms up, abs engaged, legs slightly bent, a little wider than shoulder width, and she's gonna fall whenever she's ready. And I'm gonna hug her and set her down. One thing I do wanna remind people about, this might be a little strange, a little weird to hear. This is a woman. They have boobs. They are usually the person you're catching. Try to be cognizant of those so you're not grabbing them by the boobs when they fall. That can be a little weird for everybody. Shit happens, and it's much more important for you to catch the person and accidentally punch them in the boob than it is to stay away from that and not catch them, but just be cognizant and talk to your flyer beforehand to make sure everybody's comfortable and on the same page.
All right, now that we've practiced our fall off, we're gonna make them a little more advanced because a lot of times when your flyer falls, there is a weird pitch or spin on them. So what I'm gonna have her do is she's gonna make dealer's choice. You can spin to the right, you can spin to the left. I still would like you falling in this various direction. You can fall anywhere from here to here, but I'm gonna stand here ready. You're gonna fall however you want, as long as you're staying tight, and I'm gonna practice catching you. This belongs to me now. Very nice. And hop up for one more. As you get more advanced and you've done this drill a lot, you need to have, again, a lot of trust and make sure you're doing a good job. And then what I recommend for people is generally, if this was her base and she is a flyer, I'm not going to be this close because I am in the way of the skill. So let's talk about distance real quick. I want to be at least 1 arm's length away. This is nice because with a single step, I can close the distance to catch someone, or a single shuffle. I'm not so far away that I can't close that gap, but I'm not so close that if she's doing a skill, smack me in the face, right? We don't want that. I mean, unless you're into that kind of thing. But that's not what we're here for today. It's not what we're teaching. So I'm going to come here. I'm a little over 1 arm length away. I'm getting in my spotting position. And whenever you're ready, you can fall. And you can see 1 quick step in, right to here. Happens very fast. I'm keeping my eye on the 2 points that we need to watch, right? 1, her contact point, and 2nd, the center to upper part of her body mass. As soon as I see that start to tilt, I can tell what direction she's going. I can close the gap and intercept that, pull her into me, hug her, and set her down nice and safely. And this kind of a drill, what's really nice about this is you can make it taller and taller, so you're falling from higher up just like you would be in a real scenario. The other thing that you can do is off there, what I like to have people do once they get a bit more advanced is just to jump off. Jump off and squeeze tight and let somebody catch you. Jump off and spin and somebody can catch you. Do you want to try this? We'll see if it's stable enough to get a little jump. And you don't have to like tilt hard to the side. You can do whatever you want. You're just going to jump off and squeeze tight. I'm going to grab you. So I'm here. I'm in my ready position. And shoulder blocker. Another really fun one again is jump and spin yourself as hard as you can, because then you've got these moving parts coming towards you that you have to overcome that fear as a spotter of going, huh? Get in there and catch them. You want to try one on the spin? All right, let's go.
Party.
So I'm right here, got my distance, I'm ready. Whee! The tiny trophy person. All right, and that is how we're going to practice catching our person. as high up as you feel comfortable going on a stable surface. You don't want a surface where it's going to pitch away from them as they're falling. That's going to throw it off even more. But I mean, hey, that's just another way to practice your spotting. So in acro, there's a lot of people that like to do L basing, which is where we're starting on the ground instead of standing up. All of our principles still apply. There's just a few small tweaks we have to keep in mind when we're going to be doing something like this. What's really cool about this one is, although Lisa's a very high-level acrobat, she doesn't do L basing at all. So there's a decent chance she's actually going to fall for us today, and we're going to see this in real time. Why don't we start by putting her up in a bird? So you're going to come right here. There we go. We've got her up. Now, the things you have to keep in mind right now is she is much lower to the ground than she would be if she was on another person, which means she's going to fall to the ground much more quickly. I have a lot less reaction time. So I need to be watching. I need to be much closer. You don't need to be that whole arm away unless they're doing some kind of crazy spin move. I can get in here nice and close. So the second, Ben, I want you to pitch her towards the ground away from me. The second I see that, right, I can see that her balance point started to move away from their connection point. I can step in and catch her. The other thing I want to keep in mind is, let's have you, can I have you go up into a bird with no hands real quick? Just like, oh, snap. Now, you'll notice Ben now has arms and now down towards the ground. I have to be careful of these. So if you're spotting somebody who's doing L basing stuff, here, let's bring you down for a second. We're going to watch Ben right here. Here, Ben, just have your arms on the ground. What I need to be cognizant of is knowing where I'm going to step before the skill begins in case something goes wrong. What I don't want to do is step in on Ben. What I don't want to do is step on his arm or his shoulder or his face as I step in. That's going to do three things. It's going to injure the person I step on. It's going to roll my ankle, and she's not going to get caught. Everyone is screwed, and not in the good way, not in the fun way. We don't like it that way. So you need to be cognizant of, okay, if his hand is here, I know that when I step in, I'm going to be stepping in with my right foot between like his butt and his foot. If I'm stepping with my left foot and I need to go this direction, I know I'm going to step over here towards between his shoulder and his head. But be cognizant of those things before you begin L spotting. Again, you're closer, so you're only going to need one step. So just know where your steps can go, where you're not going to injure your base or allow your flyer to be dropped. All right, we're going to talk about falling backwards. In almost everything we've done on trying to catch Lisa here, she's usually falling forward or twisting or to the side. But one of the scariest things that can happen is you are up on top of somebody, their hands come forward, your heels go forward, and now you are falling backwards. The most common thing that happens with this is people start flailing. You can't fly. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Don't be waving your arms. That's just an elbow that's going to come and smack your spotter right in the face. You probably can't see from there, but my nose is slightly off to the side because of exactly that thing. So we want to control ourselves. Why? Because physics doesn't care about your feelings. You cannot do a falling backwards one-arm push-up, especially off another person. All that's going to happen if you get that arm behind you is you're going to break your wrist, your elbow, dislocate your shoulder, something like that. Instead, we have to fight the urge to let those natural instincts take over, and we have to do what physics says is right, which in this case is pulling in tight. Your feet are already in front of you. You're going to be falling backwards. You have to commit to falling like you're going to fall flat on your back on the ground, and your spotter, person you have to trust, has to be there to catch you in what's called a cradle position. So we're going to demonstrate a cradle position for you real quick. We're going to come in here. You'll notice there's a slight bend in her waist. She's engaged her core. With this arm, I either want her to pull the arm in. Yeah, there we go. Because the further the weight is, if you stick it out away from me, the further the weight is, the more it tips and pulls her that way. This is a lot of strain on me, less safe for her. So when she catches, right, in this position, she can have her legs straight or bent as long as they're tight. And then as she lands, you're going to pull and hug into me as soon as I catch her. So I'm going to give her a little toss, pulling in. Now, this one, I'm going to do the toss. I want you to lean away from me. Oh, you see how much harder that became? And she's half my size. So if I toss her and she pulls into me, very easy. All the weight is on my upper body, my chest. It's easy for me to hold her and then set her gently down on the ground. With this kind of a thing, what you can do is you can use either a large block, something to stand on, or even another person who has them in a foot to hand or standing on their shoulders and have them practice pitching backwards and falling and cradling. When you cradle, one thing I do want to point out, if I can pull you back up again real quick, is when we're doing this, can you guys see my legs? When you do this, don't squat your butt to the ground. If I do this, and then my knees go into her back, she's going to be very sad. So I'm bending only about halfway, not dropping down and doing some bang level stuff. So violent. I like it. All right, so for this one, we've got a partner and we're going to be practicing our cradle position. So right now they're in what's called a 2 high. You can tell because they are 2 people high. Or really at this point, like 1.75 people, I think, if we put it all together. Right. So what we're going to practice here is I'm getting in my ready position. I've bent my legs. I've got my arms up. I'm watching the center of her mass and their foot connection here, center of her mass there. And whenever you're ready, she's going to fall and she's going to squeeze into that cradle position. Now, one thing I do want you to be cognizant of is she's very advanced. So she looked down, saw my head, reached her arm around to get me in a nice, good position. That's a more advanced person who knows what they're doing and is doing it to keep my back safe. I really appreciate that. Thank you. For a lot of you, when you're starting, you're just going to pull everything in and squeeze through your core as hard as you can. And they're going to grab you. And as they grab you, turn in towards their chest. Nuzzle them. Get in there nice and deep like. All right, now we're going to do it one more time. And this time, she's going to be falling off forward. And we're going to do our hug catch that we talked about before. Oh, so sturdy. All right, so she's standing up, and we're going to pretend she starts to pitch forward. Generally, if you start to pitch forward, your natural instinct is to pull your feet out in front of you. We want to use that natural instinct because we want to be able to have those legs absorb on the ground. What we don't want to do is just fall belly first. Even though I can catch her in a forward cradle, that's a lot on your low back and that arch. So we're just going to have you fall whenever you're ready. I'm in my ready position. Whoop. And I'm pulling her in, hugging around her waist. Now you'll notice her arms were a little out here, which means she didn't quite get them in as she started to fall. We either want them here or here, just to keep your arms safe. Because if you come down and elbow me in the face, I will cry. I'm not above it. I will cry. One of the most common acro skills that you're going to see is your hand to hand. And that's basically when a flyer is doing a handstand on top of a base. That could be low, that could be laying on the ground, that could be fully extended up here. But in that handstand position, that is the most dangerous position for a lot of people to fall from when they're first starting out because your feet are not pointed at the ground. Your head is pointed at the ground. And what we don't want to have happen is you drop down and land on your head. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice a drill that you can utilize as long as you have a handstand. And even if you don't have a very good handstand, we're going to use a wall to show you how to do this drill. So you can practice this safety drill all on your own. Now, it's just simply called a pike down. A pike position is where we are bending at the waist and keeping our legs mostly straight. I don't need them locked out straight, but we're not tucking into a ball. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the most basic level of this drill using a wall. And we're going to kick up to a handstand with our back against the wall. Now, if you're actually trying to learn how to do handstands, this is the exact opposite drill you should ever do. You should be facing the other direction on the wall. Everyone does it this way, and everyone is wrong. You have now been warned. But for the pike drill, I'm going to squeeze my shoulders to my ears. As I start to tip away, I'm going to bend in the waist, bring my feet to the ground, bend my legs to help absorb. Simple pike down. All right? This allows me to fall out of a handstand. In a normal gymnastic style handstand, we'd be coming right here and we'd be coming down 1, 2 to a lunge position. If you're falling from high up off of another person, your legs will not work absorbing that way. So we keep the feet together because 2 legs together are a lot stronger than 2 legs independently. All right. After you've got this down, we're going to add on a slightly more advanced version. The more advanced version is we're going to face the way we normally should on a wall if we're doing a handstand. And we're going to start with our stomach to the wall. Now, as I start to fall towards my back, I am going to pivot one hand, turn, and bring my feet down to the ground. It's called a 180 pike save. If you ever watch anybody who does a lot of hand-to-hand, you will see this all the time. It is how people generally come down. They will start to tip over, they will spin a 180, and they will bring their feet down to the ground. I highly recommend that when you do this, you will notice that one side feels much more comfortable than the other. Practice the uncomfortable side 3 times as much as you do your comfortable side. 3 times on uncomfortable side, one side uncomfortable side. Do that a bunch until the two sides basically become indistinguishable. Because when a situation occurs where you have to save yourself, you can't always assume it's going to be in the most comfortable way possible. It might be pitching you towards the side that you feel more uncomfortable spinning. And when that does happen, you'll be very, very happy that you practiced this drill. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to grab Lisa one more time. We're going to go up into a hand-to-hand, and we're going to show you, one, how to do her 180 pike save down to the ground. And in the worst case that she's not able to spin her 180 and she's falling flat towards her back, how I, the spotter, can catch her in a cradle just like we did before. Let's do it. All right, so they're gonna pop up into a hand-to-hand. We're gonna show you the 180 pike save. So here, as soon as she starts to fall over, I, as the spotter, am ready. She comes down whenever she's ready, and I'm grabbing her around the waist, pulling her into my body, and setting her down. Now, a lot of times, the flyer does not actually need you for this, but if you happen to be there, taking a little weight off of what their legs have to absorb is always a nice gesture that is very much appreciated. Especially if you're doing 50 of these in a day, your legs are gonna burn out. So the more that you can help set them down gently, the safer they're gonna be. Now what we're gonna talk about is we're gonna talk about hand-to-hand falling towards her back, but she is not able to pike save. She's not able to do the 180, so she is falling and she's gonna fall into her cradle position that we went over earlier. The primary difference for this one is since she's in a handstand falling in her cradle, her arms are already extended. So she's gonna be pushing her shoulders up and into her ears, creating a bridge right here to protect the shoulders and to protect the neck as she falls. And then we're gonna catch her in the cradle. This is because as you get absorbed, if your arm is out here and it's all gonna go into your shoulder or your head goes back, it all sucks. But when you squeeze all of these groups together, you create a bridge of bone and muscle right here that are all supporting one another, and it's gonna keep your neck and your shoulder joints a lot safer. No torn rotator cuffs.
Yep. Also, as she's falling here, I'm going to keep my hands on her hands and I'm going to be pulling up to help keep her head off of the ground.
Thank you. Very, very big one. As they come down, don't hold their hands and pull their arms down, because if I catch her here and he pulls her arms down to there, that's a huge yank on her shoulder and then into her spine, and then she will cry, and then, you know, her significant other will come and beat me up, and then I'll cry, and then my wife comes out and beats him up, and now I got two angry wives and they got to fight each other. It's basically like a mom fight. Neither of you are moms, but there you go.
All right, let's do it.
You can cut that out if you want, or whatever.
We don't do cuts here.
Okay, whenever you're ready, we'll pop on up. And I'm right here. I can see her distance. Whenever she's ready, she's gonna fall over. Pulling in, you notice I'm absorbing with my legs, and then setting her down to the ground, keeping it nice and safe. Yeah, yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work. Let's go.
Thanks, Justin, for teaching us all about spotting, and thank you for watching. For more free content in the future, please like, comment, and subscribe. Is there anything you want to share before we break?
Sure. If you're into parkour, tumbling, trampoline, any of that kind of fun stuff, you can check out @Firestorm Freerunning. I have 70 full-length tutorials that are all anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes long that go over all the basic intro skills and how to do them in all those different disciplines. But thanks for joining us, and don't drop anybody.
Those are titty tassels.
Got him.
I'm just saying, now you always know where to cut, man.